Well, it's Friday. Can you believe it already? Friday, January the 12th. Seems like we just finished decorating those Christmas trees and celebrating Kwanzaa and all bringing in the new year. And we're already into the second week of January. Time is moving fast, but we're glad to be with you again. I'm Denise Rollard Barnes. Welcome to Let's Talk and our Martin Luther King holiday edition. We've got a couple of interesting conversations we're going to have during this show, and I'm so glad that you're going to be with us. And as a matter of fact, if you're in the nation's capital or in the DMV, I hope your plans include coming out to the 19th annual, can you believe it? Well, 19th annual Martin Luther King Holiday Peace Walk and Parade. But I've got to share with you that in the District of Columbia, we have had a Martin Luther King parade over the past 45 years. The first parade took place on Monday, January 15th, 1979. This was before the holiday was declared by the U.S. Congress. And at that parade was the advocate for the Martin Luther King holiday, none other than Stevie Wonder, who rode as the Grand Marshal and rode up front with the organizers of the parade, who included Dr. Calvin Rollard, because my father, Councilmember Wilhelmina Rollard, was my stepmother, and also the council member for Ward 8 at that time, which is where the parade took place on Martin Luther King Avenue, and the late Ralph Waldo Petey Green. We all know him as Petey Green, and if you haven't seen that film, I think it's called I can't remember the name of the film, but it's a great story about Petey Green, what his role was in the District of Columbia, how much he really worked, particularly after the assassination of Dr. King, to kind of qualm the violence that was going on in the streets. But he was the voice of DC. When we talk about go-go as the music of DC, Petey Green was the voice of DC. And he used to have this saying, what is it? Tell it to the young, tell it to the old. I'm kind of messing it all up. I'm gonna learn that, but don't want no line, don't want no line, don't want no crime, but most of all, no signifying. Petey was full of slogans, and it was so the three of them came together to have this parade in the District of Columbia before the national holiday, and because Stevie Wonder was here. Also leading that movement for a national holiday, he joined in that parade. So that parade started in 1979. It has continued. Maybe 2 or 3 years it didn't happen, and then we picked it up again. A group of us, myself, Yango Sawyer, and Keith Silver, pulled it all together with a peace walk. And then there was this demand for a parade. We've got to get the parade back. We've got to get the parade back. So we've gotten it back. And I'm going to tell you folks, I wish we could have this parade televised as we have had in the last couple of years, because you will see some, mouth-dropping participants. I mean, we've got folks coming in from New Jersey, Baltimore, Norfolk, 16 or 17, maybe 18 marching bands. Of course, the ones in Washington, D.C. are star bands, Ballou Senior High School, Eastern High School marching band. You name it, lottie-dottie, and everybody's going to be. We even have, of course, we're going to talk about the Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity that Dr. King was a proud member of, who comes out in full force at the parade, but also the Prince Hall Masons are promising to be 250 strong men in their black suits and white shirts, and they will be marching in the parade as well. So we plan to have a grand time. We prayed for warmer weather. We're going to have decent weather. I think the snow is supposed to come on Tuesday. So the great God of our lives, but also who controls this weather, is going to, I guess, smile on us. I wish he'll give us a little bit of sunshine, but at least we won't have any precipitation on that day, because we have hundreds and hundreds of young people, children of all ages, that come out and participate. And that's one reason why this parade takes place. No, we weren't supposed to talk about all this in the beginning of the show, but I just had to share this with you. Is because how do we keep Dr. King's legacy alive? And so many young people, if they didn't have an event to participate in every year, to look forward to think back on, because some of them, you figure 45 years ago, some of those kids now are in their 60s. But remember when they marched in the Martin Luther King parade. So that's how we keep at least his image and his at least that part of his life alive. But we also use that opportunity to get folks to hone in on his message, his work, what he tried to do to make this world a better place. Just left the UPO breakfast this morning, United Planning Organization, an organization that UPO that Petey Green worked for. Former Attorney General Eric Holder was the keynote speaker. And he talked about that as well. He said if Dr. King was alive today, one of the things he would see that because of his work, we have made great progress. But he also knows that Dr. King was an impatient man, as so many were, and he did not want to wait. He wanted things to happen now. And so he would still be impatient because some of the conditions that he worked for and died for continue to exist. You know, lack of affordable housing, lack of decent housing, lack of food, lack of quality education. You name all those issues. And the thing, some people ask, when will we get our freedom? When will we get those things that we've asked for? And one of the things that gives me some solace is knowing that this is a constant fight. It's not one of those things that you fight for. You get a little piece and then you go sit down and sort of bask in the glory. No, you have to continue the struggle. As um, was it Frederick Douglass has said, struggle was it something concedes nothing without a demand. So we have to constantly demand, and so that's part of what we're going to do. What we do here at Let's Talk here on Win TV. And we know that if we can build the community of impatient people who want to work and give to the efforts to make life a better place for all of us, we'll be in good shape. So again, I'm your host, Denise Rollard Barnes. I hope you've picked up a copy of this week's Washington Informer. You know, I always like to show you the print edition. And I'm going to continue to show you this as long as we have Win TV and Let's Talk, and as long as we continue to print the paper. But you can pick a copy up. We have over 500 locations around the DMV. You can also read the digital edition online at WashingtonInformer.com. Again, that's WashingtonInformer.com. And if you're already a part of the Washington Informer family, please share this broadcast with your friends and followers. Also, be sure to follow and share this broadcast on your social media channels, including Facebook, IG, X, formerly known as Twitter, Threads, LinkedIn, and Nextdoor. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Washington Informer TV. No spaces, one straight word, Washington Informer TV. Go to Washington Informer TV right now if you're not there or during the show. I want you to go in and subscribe to our program. This does so much for us. You know, we're about to celebrate our 60th anniversary this year, 60 years old. You'll be hearing a lot about that on every show actually through this year. But there's certain things that you can do to help us as we celebrate. And I say help because we do need your support. And one of those ways of doing that is really free, and that's following us on on our Facebook platforms and subscribing to our YouTube channel. If you do that for us, it will make a tremendous difference. So we thank you for that. We have a great show today. We will be talking to Nolan Carr, Community Relations and Marketing Manager for AmeriGroup DC, and one of the sponsors of the annual Martin Luther King Jr. Holiday Wellness Fair. That is also coming up on Monday. AmeriGroup DC will shed light on the incredible work they're doing in the community to ensure that we have a healthier community, and also to remind us about making sure that we I want to say sign up, but if you're already on Medicare, you want to go and make sure Nolan's going to explain it to you. So I hope I confused you enough to say, what was Denise talking about? I got to hear this guy so she can straighten it out. So we're going to talk to him in a little bit. We're going to talk to Nia 2X, who is representing the National Action Network's annual Martin Luther King Jr. prayer breakfast in Washington, D.C. on Monday morning. She's going to talk to us a little bit about that and the efforts of NAN to carry forward Dr. King's vision of equality, justice, and unity. And in our what we think will be our fun but captivating segment, we're going to sit down with Washington Informer staff members who also happen to be members of the fraternity that Dr. King was a proud member of, the Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. That's Austin Cooper, David Beckford, and James Wright. And they're going to talk about, how they share this sacred bond. When you're in college and you get a chance to choose, if you choose at all, if you want to be a part of one of the Greek letter organizations, certain things go into those decisions. And I'm sure belonging to a fraternity that was once had one as its member, Dr. King, may have gone into the decisions that they made. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and that will bring us to the end of the show. We want to hear from you, any Alpha Phi Alpha folks out there. Make sure you get ready to add your comments to the show. And if you're doing any Martin Luther King events this weekend, add that in the chat. We certainly do want to know what else is going out there going on this weekend that we have not talked about. So before we go into our first segment of the show, let me bring on Curtis Knowles with our weekly broadcast.
This is WIN TV News, bringing you the news that matters. Facing a rising number of deaths on its roads and a mounting pile of unpaid speeding tickets, the district has taken its first step towards significantly strengthening enforcement against speeding drivers. In a 12-0 first vote, the D.C. Council has said yes to an amendment that would allow more booting and more towing of vehicles repeatedly involved in speeding, even when tickets are paid. The bill, called the Steer Amendment Act for Strengthening Traffic Enforcement Education and Responsibility, would also give the D.C. Attorney General the right to sue drivers, both inside and outside the district, not just for unpaid speeding tickets, but also to suspend their driving privileges. Charles Allen, the author of the bill, said, quote, "This level of traffic violence is due in part to the sheer volume of speeding and dangerous driving that is happening in the district." Ron Rivera, finishing off his fourth season as head coach for the Washington Commanders, has been terminated from his position less than a day after the 38-10 loss to the division rivals Dallas Cowboys. Rivera's coaching record is 26 wins, 40 losses, and 1 draw, and includes back-to-back last-place finishes in the NFC East Division. A search committee that includes business mogul and NBA superstar Magic Johnson and former Golden State Warriors general manager Bob Myers will begin the hunt for a new coach. The Commanders have already requested permission to interview Rams defensive coordinator Raheem Morris and Ravens associate head coach Anthony Weaver for their head coaching vacancy. No Labels, a political group laying the groundwork for a possible third-party presidential ticket, has reached the required signature threshold to become a political party in Maryland, according to a state official on Wednesday. Jared DeMarinis, Maryland elections administrator, said that the state has verified more than 10,000 signatures of registered voters in Maryland that have required to form a political party and put candidates on the ballot. No Labels has secured ballot access in more than a dozen states and is working on getting all 50 by Election Day.
Thank you so very much, Curtis, and Happy New Year to you. Haven't had a chance to say that. So let's move on. Nolan, I am so excited to have you on the show right now and to help get the facts straight. Nolan Carr, Community Relations and Marketing Manager at AmeriGroup DC. Welcome to WIN TV.
Thanks so much for having me on, Denise. Fan of the show, all the topics that you guys cover on Let's Talk. And on behalf of AmeriGroup, I'm honored to be here today.
So we're going to get to my mistakes. You put some red lines through that. So, but before I do that, I just want to say one, thank you on behalf, and this is kind of not a WIN TV thing, but an MLK parade for being one of the sponsors. And one of the theme for the health fair, which is going to take place this Monday, January 15th from 11 to 2, the PNC parking lot on Martin Luther King Avenue. The theme that the coordinator, Wendell Wren, came up with is men's health, men's physical health, and men's mental health. Tell me why you think that's important.
I think it's critical, oftentimes, there's a focus on health and wellness, and a lot of times that's directed towards women, and rightfully so, but we don't want to leave the men out. And so we want to kind of get some awareness out there, some education, just on important information, and things that relate specifically to men, such as just the importance of, getting your prostate checked and screenings for that, and as well as, really not just the physical health, but the mental health as well. Sometimes that there's stigmas around, men. And so we want to get out all kind of information. I applaud Wendell for really making that the theme and supporting the men. It'd be something for everybody, but we do want to put an emphasis on the men with this wellness fair this year.
I think that's great. And so as far as AmeriGroup's participation, because you all have done this before, is there anything special people should really look out for on that day if they come out to see you all specifically?
Yeah, well, first I'll just say, just be looking forward to a great time. Like you said, we had the opportunity to be a part of it last year. It was amazing. So many different resources and services and information. As AmeriGroup is a managed care organization, so we're responsible for managing, folks who are eligible for Medicaid throughout the district. We want to make sure that we provide some specific information. Obviously, we'll be providing updates on what some of the benefits are as it relates to Medicaid, what you get, whether that's doctor visits, dental services, eye care, those things that are critical and important. But in addition to that, there is some important messaging, and folks may have seen or may not have seen, but due to the public health emergency related to COVID-19, we know that COVID-19 affected everyone. Those who were eligible for Medicaid during the public health emergency did not have to renew their benefits. And with the public health emergency being lifted, folks have to renew again. So we don't want folks to lose their Medicaid benefits. And we're working closely with the other managed care organizations, as well as our district partner, Department of Healthcare Finance, to make sure folks have the right information. So we'll be there kind of giving information out about Medicaid renewal and making sure folks have the information needed to renew if they already have it.
And while I have you here, tell us, who is eligible for Medicaid?
So Medicaid here in DC, it's a great program. Anyone who meets the Medicaid eligibility requirements can receive Medicaid. So you can be any age, race, or sex. And really what Medicaid is, it's a healthcare program that pays for medical services for low income and disabled residents here in DC. So those eligible, Medicaid will pay for different healthcare providers, those being doctors, hospitals, pharmacies, for those enrolled in the DC Medicaid program.
And how do people enroll? So
I think the best way to enroll is really to do so in person. So they have service centers throughout the district, in Anacostia, Congress Heights, Fort Davis. We have one. We have a community center here on 8th Street, and right down the street there's a service center. You can
8th
go
Street northeast or west?
Yeah, northeast. Okay. Yep. Okay. And so you can go online. Our website is districtdirect.dc.gov and get a ton of information around the Medicaid program. Look up those service centers as well. And if you need any assistance, a number that you can call directly, and I'll repeat this, it's 202-727-5355, 202-727-5355.
Wonderful. So I just want you to revisit something that you said a little bit earlier. Because of COVID, because of the pandemic, people on Medicaid did not have to renew. Before the pandemic, did they have to do that?
Correct. So there was annual renewal. And so you may have some folks who applied for Medicaid during the public health emergency and during COVID-19's height, and they've never renewed. So they're not familiar with that experience. But prior to, you did have to renew annually. And so that's resumed. So that's part of the reason we want to be here at this health fair. You guys draw out a bunch of folks throughout the district. And so it's critical that we're there getting that information out as folks, a lot of folks are aware and have received their information and have renewed already. But if not, we want to make sure that we're able to get that critical information out.
And so is there a deadline for renewal? And what happens if your coverage lapses and you don't renew by that deadline?
Yep. So if you're not able to renew by the deadline, you are given a grace period. And then that doesn't mean that you can't reapply and get the benefits again. But to ensure that there are no gaps in coverage, we want to make sure that folks do renew.
And for Medicaid, is it so let's say you have a household, they're the man, the woman, and the house, and then a couple of kids. Who does everyone, do you sign up like individually? Do the kids have their own Medicaid, or is it like a family plan? How does it work?
So everyone will have their own identification number, their own eligibility. So it would be separate. And so the family could all have Medicaid, and they all could have different renewal dates, or they could all have the same renewal dates depending on when they applied and became eligible.
And let's say if you are is there an age where you age out of your family's coverage? So you're 17, 18 years old, you've been covered by your mom or something like that. Do you have to apply to get Medicaid yourself? How does that, is there ages?
So here in the district, we recognize adults at age 21.
Okay.
And so, until that, you can be applied for and eligible for Medicaid by your guardian. But then at that age, you would have to apply on behalf of yourself.
Okay. All right. And then the benefits, I think at some time or other, all of us, well, I don't know, I speak for myself, walked around without insurance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, it was, you didn't have an employer that insured you, what have you. And I know there's income levels and that sort of thing, but this is an opportunity for everybody to get coverage based upon, and give us that criteria again.
So the criteria, it is income based. It depends on family size. So you can go directly, you can just Google DHCF, Department of Healthcare Finance, and kind of look at the eligibility requirements based on income and apply for Medicaid. And then they also have resources for those who are not eligible for Medicaid as well.
And since we're talking, go ahead.
No, and again, I just want to, encourage anybody who, may not have it to look into it and apply.
Okay. And then does Medicaid cover dental care?
It does.
Okay.
It does cover dental services. And standard, you're going to be able to get your cleanings and your x-rays and go every 6 months to get those dental services and have a dental provider that, you can work with.
That's amazing. And then what about mental health services?
Yes, so that's key. There are mental health services available in Medicaid, home and community-based services to kind of meet folks where they are that are available. So those services are in the Medicaid program as well.
We have one of our longtime viewers, Michael Von Lasseter, who asked a very good question, and it's about seniors. And what are you all doing, AmeriGroup doing to make sure that seniors are compliant, because some can't get out, what have you, they may be covered, but they don't have access to renewal, to the ability to renew.
Right. So we definitely have been keeping the seniors and those who may not be mobile on our outreach list in a couple different ways. So what we do is we have a team designated to in-person and face-to-face outreach, our community health workers. Okay. And so they're able to go and knock on doors, so to speak, and go meet our seniors at their home and support with anything they may need as far as the information support is related to renewal and education on different things, whether it be how to access different benefits and questions that they may have. and if anyone kind of needed to get in contact with us about, hey, how can I get in contact with a community health worker or a case manager or someone to support, a senior or anyone else, there's a number you could call, and you can reach out to 202-727-5355.
Okay, we're going to put that up,
Okay.
202-727-5355.
Yep.
That's good because, we have to think of, we have to get to the point, I believe, where we think of, our whole community. I mean, it's not only that I'm insured, but making sure that my neighbors, their children, Miss Diane down the street or whomever, all knows this information and has access to it. So that's
Right.
a big thing.
It takes a village to share that information. Not to cut you off, Ms. Denise, but
No problem.
I think I gave you the wrong number there. That 202-727-5355. That is the number I have in my mind. That's been pressed in my mind to get folks support on renewal, but specific just to any program benefit or additional services to reach out to us directly. I want to give you a different number to note down.
Sure.
And that's going to be 202-218-4904.
Right. You got that? Wonderful. Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right, Nolan. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you want our viewers to know about? One, that you're going to be out there on Monday.
Yep.
That you all are at events across the city all the time.
All the time.
What else do you have coming up?
No,
in the
just
near future?
again, I want to thank you all, for having us and letting us be a support and present at the event. I do want to drop a little plug. I know that MLK Holiday, holidaydc.org, that website, you can get information about stuff. I know a lot of things going on, so I definitely want to note that. So if folks want to get some details on what's going on, and please, we're in the community. Feel free to drop by our community center. We're on 609 H Street Northeast, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. We have different program around health and wellness, free exercise classes, nutrition workshops, and things like that you guys can be a part of. So, stop by and visit us. Looking forward to the event. It's going to be a great time.
Just lastly, because I'm goal oriented in 2024. Does AmeriGroup have a goal, a healthcare goal for the District of Columbia?
Yes. So ultimately, and I think it's fitting that when you talk about Dr. King and equality, but we also know Dr. King had a focus on equity as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we hope to do at AmeriGroup DC overall is really just ensure a healthier DC for our members, the ones that we serve, and the community at large. And we can't do that without working with the community and addressing access to care and making sure that there's health equity throughout the district. And so our goal is to meet those needs and continue to support the district to achieve that.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, thank you very much for being with us. Go out and get those foot warmers and hand warmers and everything else. I think it's going to be a chilly day, but hopefully clear. And I look forward to seeing you and everybody out there on Monday.
Thanks so much, Denise. Congrats on 60 years. I'm looking forward to 60 more.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. All righty. Have a good one. So if you know anybody that you think needs that information, we've gotten some numbers from Nolan Carr that you can share with people in your family, in your neighborhood, in your community, on your workplace, anybody that you think might need to renew. That's the big question. Actually, ask them, did you renew your Medicaid? So not that, you want to get into their business, but you just want folks to know, as Kathy used to say on her radio talk show when WOL was here and she was locally and she was on the show every day, but information is power. And one person who I know knows that, and that's Sister Nia 2X, our next guest, who believed in that sincerely. Nia, welcome to Win TV.
Thank you for having me. I'll call myself adjusting the light. Look like I made it worse. Excuse me, but thank you for having me.
No, our pleasure. Our pleasure. So, everybody knows that you've been, I hate to say this because we're adding years onto our lives, but you know that you've been out here a long time fighting for DC, fighting for people, and bringing communities together that might not ordinarily come together, from the Muslim community to the Christian community, and now, Nan, who is based in New York, but, has, I say, tentacles into the District of Columbia because of what you do with NAN. Talk about your role with the National Action Network that was, of course, established by Reverend Al Sharpton.
Well, thank you, Denise. Let me say first, on behalf of myself, I'm a happy elder. I'm not ashamed of it at all. It's such a grace to get older. I guess if I start experiencing a lot of the things that are associated with becoming an elder, I might change my conversation. But uh, when it comes to the National Action Network, and on behalf of the Honorable Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton, it was the DC chapter who has started that title for him, the Honorable Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton, or the Honorable Reverend Al Sharpton, who, of course, started his great organization, this civil rights organization, after the pattern. He patterned this organization after Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Becoming, or rather remaining nonviolent, and certainly pursuing the civil rights of all, but especially Black people, because as of then and now, we were still at the very bottom. In fact, Reverend Sharpton says, yes, we'll be celebrating on the actual birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., which was January 15th, or is January 15th, 1929. We know that his birthday celebration falls on Mondays at different dates, but this is the actual date. He would have been 95 years. So the DMV is our chapter. We've been a chapter since 2014 is when I was humbly elected as the humble servant president of the chapter. But DC has had a chapter prior to that. I don't know much about it, but it's not near 2X at all. Let me be so honest. We have great membership that help myself and the other board members, and of course the Honorable Reverend Sharpton, complete and attain the goals that we have, providing civil rights for all walks of life here in the District of Columbia. So we have a lot of great people that if it wasn't for them, this chapter would not. I mean, I'm talking about Anise Jenkins, who, of course, DC statehood. We call her Mama Sandy, and just many others. Susan Woodard, and even Frank Malone, head of the 100 Fathers Incorporated. There's so many names that keep this chapter up. We love the leadership of the Honorable Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're just here to provide and make sure people know that the civil rights movement did not die with Dr. King. In fact, it has accelerated, and it's on the map all over the country, different parts of the world.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, and I hate to interrupt you, but I want to talk a little bit about the breakfast on Monday. I know this is not the first breakfast that NAN has held in Washington, D.C. Which one is this? Which annual breakfast is this?
Now, how come I knew you was going to ask me that? And I hunted yesterday for the actual fact, the truth. I got a lot of different answers. So they told me at least over a decade. I didn't really like the answer, but that is the answer. Instead of just throwing out anything, they said, at least I called New York, I've called the Raleigh, and the answer is over a decade.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask the Honorable Reverend Al Sharpton, and he should go right off the break.
Well, rather than going backwards, let's go forward. So what's going to happen on Monday? Where's the breakfast? Who's going to be honored? Who's your speaker? Share that with us.
Yes, ma'am. It's going to be at the Mayflower Hotel, 1127 Connecticut Avenue, beginning at 8:30. People start lining up about 7:30, but the doors actually open up at 8:30. And of course, the breakfast is free. And people are so excited about it because this year we're having the first Black governor of Maryland, Governor Wes Moore. He's one of the honorees, as well as Felicia Rashad, the movie star, mom's, what they call her, America's mother, when the Cosby Show was on the air. And of course, DC's own Taraj P. Henson, one of the honorees. And the tables and the registration and everything really is filled up at this
That's
point.
amazing. Did you say that the breakfast is free?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Every
Nice.
year. This event
Okay.
is free from the National Action Network. And that's another reason why it's filled up this year as fast, I believe. Well, for me, Taraj P. Henson and the other two, but I mean, it went very quickly.
So do you
And
have to register or what? How do you manage who I mean, do you just show up, or I heard you say the line starts about 7:30. Is that how it works? You just come and get in line, and or
no,
is there
there
registration?
is a pre-registration, and
Oh,
people
okay.
that are registering right now are seeing that it is filled at this
Okay.
point. And
Okay.
he's also going to celebrate in New York. He comes to DC and celebrate the annual event. This year, Martin Luther King III and his wife, Andrea Waters King, who is head of Drum Majors Institute, and their daughter, the only granddaughter of Dr. King and Coretta Scott King, Yolanda. She's coming up to be a great speaker, a
No
great advocate.
question. Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. She's going to be here as well.
Wonderful. So that's this Monday, January 15th. Doors open at 8:30.
Uh, Doors opened at 8:30, but people are usually lining up an
Lined up.
hour
Right, right.
before
Okay.
and able to come in and just enjoy the spirit. But one thing Reverend Sharpton says, as we are enjoying, he is also publicly vowing to continue to protect the voting rights and the other issues that are on the table that are being threatened from the opposition to remove. And so we're celebrating that day, but working right after the breakfast to continue to protect and provide the civil and human rights for all, but especially the voting rights that are under threat and so many other rights of people, but especially the voting rights. They're also going to have awards for education, labor, and other individuals will be awarded as well. But those three main headliners are certainly bringing the excitement here to our city.
So I know, Reverend Sharpton, I mean, people just always love to hear him speak, right? And so because he's such a great orator. But will there be another speaker, or will it be Reverend Sharpton? How's that going to work?
Well, you have an MC, and once people accept their awards, they will have an opportunity to share their thoughts and information.
So there's no keynote? I didn't know if he had a keynote speaker or anything. That's all I was asking.
No, ma'am. To my knowledge,
Okay.
not a keynote speaker, but
Okay.
again, the acceptance speeches and a move forward. It's not just the celebration, but there will be a message of the continuation to get the civil and human rights for all people. That will be heavily emphasized.
Wonderful. Well, it sounds like it's going to be a great event as always. And I'm too late for folks who are watching right now to get their tickets, but at least we know that some great folks are going to be honored on Monday. That Dr. Sharpton, or Reverend Sharpton, I know, will kind of issue his call or his challenge for especially Black America, but for America in the new year. And it's a great time for folks to get together to recommit, like you said, to all the issues that we need to address in this year. So, Sister Nia 2X, thank you so much for being with us.
And thank you for what you're doing on the same day. The whole city is excited, not only of what we're doing, but what the Washington Informer, newspaper, Win TV, and the other advocates around the city are doing to keep Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy alive and strong. And we march on until victory is won. So thank you, Sister Denise Roloff Barnes.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good to see you.
You too, ma'am. Thank
All righty. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so yep, the Reverend Sharpton's back. Breakfast at I think she said the Mayflower Hotel. Sorry if you haven't gotten your tickets, but you know, early bird catches the ticket for the breakfast, and I think it's a good thing. I mean, all of there, you can't do enough. We really cannot do enough, I don't think, in this community to honor the life and legacy of Dr. King. And for those who, you know, are really a part of the extension of his work, either in civil rights organizations. He was a member of the Progressive Baptist Ministers Conference, so those in the clergy. And I have to say, those who are in a Greek letter organizations, especially Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, I know this is a fine time for you. So it's a great time for me to bring in our next group of guests. Austin Cooper, David Beckford, and James Wright. Welcome to MTV.
Hey, Denise, good to see you.
Now, y'all say something when you get together. I'm not sure. It's like, hey, 6 or something. Tell
1906.
James, you didn't say anything. What's yours?
Well, they actually took both of them, but particularly the one with 06. So, yeah.
You know, y'all come in the office doing those things, and I'm like, no gang signs in here. I'm sorry, you can't do that.
And you guys, you see how Denise is already trying to act like she don't know it, but okay, that's good.
But I want to do, first of all, you know, you guys are, you know, you decided to pledge a fraternity, and you decided on Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, I guess, when you were in college. But if you could briefly, you know, tell us how you decided to make the decision on this fraternity. Austin, I'm going to start with you. And, you know, and what the tie-in to Dr. King was, if that had any influence on what fraternity you wanted to join.
Well, and thanks again, Denise, for the invite. Good to see you, brothers. You know, it was really easy for me, Denise. I was probably 10 or 11 when I read a very simple book on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It was called very simply, I Have a Dream. Now, in the book, it did not mention Dr. King being a member of Alpha Phi Alpha, but my dad was a member of Alpha Phi Alpha. I later learned that Dr. King was a member of Alpha Phi Alpha. You know, other notables such as, you know, Andrew Young, Jesse Owens, Paul Robeson, Thurgood Marshall. There are rumors that God was an alpha. We have to confirm that. but seriously, it was really my dad and Dr. King.
All right, David.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you for having us as well. For me, it started in high school. I was in a fine arts program, and during the summer, I don't know if you guys had it here in DC, they would have, you know, art students painting murals on buildings throughout the city. There were my direct report, or the people that I reported to were 2 young alphas, one named Kylan Hunt and the other Frank Williams. Kylan went to Howard University and pledged here in Washington, D.C. And it was just something about the way that they carried themselves and the professionalism that they exuded. And so they would share with me all of the parties and all this wonderful stuff, but they told me all of that means nothing next to being a servant of the community. And coming from my background, you know, my father's a pastor, and we've always been out there, you know, helping people. This was the fraternity was in perfect alignment. Then when I found out others like Dr. King, of course, and you know, some of the notable community leaders who led the civil rights movements, the economic development programs, and really, I mean, people who died, you know, to help Black people were parts of the members of the fraternity. It was just a no-brainer for me to align myself. So I'm very thankful to be a member of Alpha Phi Alpha since 1986.
Wow. Okay. All right. And James Wright.
Well, as you know, I'm from Austin, Texas, and I come from a Greek family. My late father belonged to another Greek organization, and my mother and my sister are Deltas. But we grew up in the Greek atmosphere. And it's funny you mentioned Dr. King because Dr. John King, the president of Houston Tillerson College, was an Alpha. And the black city councilman in Austin at the time, Dr. Charles Early, was an Alpha. And my uncle Alex is an Alpha. And so that played a tremendous role in my decision to become an Alpha at Eta Gamma chapter at Prairie View A&M University in 1984.
Wow. Great. Austin, I don't remember if you gave us a year.
No, I pledged, went over across the burning sands December 5th, 1980 at
Wow.
St. Augustine's, then college, now university in Raleigh, North Carolina.
So, I'm always excited because some of the fraternities and sororities do show up at the MLK parade. Usually the largest numbers happen to be, no offense against the rest. I mean, the AKAs do volunteer work every year. The Deltas show up in large numbers, but of course the Alphas outshine everybody. And so I'm just wondering, how is Dr. King's legacy sort of retained or recognized within the fraternities? I guess you all are in different chapters, but is there anything that you all do to sort of uphold his principles and values within your chapters or in the organization as a whole? I'll let anybody go ahead, Austin.
Well, I belong to the Mu Lambda chapter, which is the graduate chapter in Washington, D.C. My late uncle Theodore, who I neglected to mention earlier, was also a member of this chapter for 50 years. And in addition, Denise, to some of the brothers walking in the King Parade on Monday, there will be some members of our chapter who will not be marching, but will be at Anacostia High School. Painting, putting together furniture. There was a list of activities where some of the brothers are going to go. One of the things that we're going to be resuming at Ballou High School is the Mu Lambda chapter has a mentorship program. And we meet with young brothers at the school once a month and just spend, 2 or 3 hours with them. And we have, different themes. One may be job interviews, another may be colleges, another may be we're just sitting there and helping them with their homework, but really trying to get in their heads that and truly it's not a recruiting effort. This is just us trying to give back to the community. So that's one of my favorite activities that I do once a month with the chapter.
And that kind of feeds into that theme. Dr. King's birthday is a day on, not a day off. But as far as the responsibilities of being a member of Alpha Phi Alpha, there's no day that's a day off when it comes to community service. That's the impression that I get. James, go ahead.
Yeah, that is definitely right. I belong to the Omicron Lambda Alpha chapter. Austin said that he belongs to the graduate chapter of Alpha in DC. I would beg to differ.
You picked up on that. Okay. You're paying attention. I was just checking up on you, bro.
We are heavily involved in Paul Charter School and in tutoring young people. We're now reaching out to Prince George's County in terms of that. We spend a lot of time in community service. Matter of fact, the parade is one of our things that we work with in terms of community service. And I did want to mention this very quickly in terms of Dr. King. It was an Alpha chapter, Iota Upsilon Lambda in Silver Spring, that spearheaded the effort for the Dr. Martin Luther King Memorial that was built. It was IUL brothers that really got that together. And it was a brother, Harry Johnson, who actually raised a whole lot of money to make sure
For the
that
monument.
was financed. So we are still steeped in the King legacy.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, James, because yeah, we that was a tough year trying to get that monument done. I think it was also at a time we had an earthquake. Was it an earthquake
Yes.
in DC, a small one,
Earthquake,
which
yeah.
impacted the opening of that statue. But
Yes.
which was when we really got a chance to see how the role that the local Alpha chapter played. So I'm glad you brought that up, David.
Well, in St. Louis, proud member of, there's actually 3 graduate chapters in St. Louis County, St. Louis City, and East St. Louis. And then our undergraduate chapter, Alpha Eta, where I actually pledged. There'll be a host of activities this weekend. But the most important thing that they're doing is, leading up to this weekend, the brothers have been raising funds for scholarships and mentorship programs. So in our citywide chapter, we're able to raise over $100,000 a year, each year, to give to deserving students who want to, go on to college and higher education. That's something that we had been doing forever. As an 18-year-old, I can remember walking through the streets of St. Louis and in the Martin Luther King parade very proudly with my brothers. And to see now that we are now following his legacy of not just the giving back piece, but the economic development side, and being able to fund that, it brings joy to my heart.
These are great stories. And as one who did go to college, I never pledged a Greek letter organization, but I definitely understand the value. At least I think I do understand the value of being a part of one. And since you all don't seem to want to let me become a member of Alpha Phi Alpha, I know it's a fraternity, but it's so many of you all. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. But at any rate, since I'm not, that's why I am not. But what has been the value to you personally of being a member of this great fraternity? And did Dr. King, the people, Dr. King among them, it sort of influenced some of the choices you've made, the either personal or professionally? I really want to know kind of why you did this and what difference it's made in your life, in your lives.
Well, if I could throw in, Denise, just we all know that Dr. King went to Morehouse. He skipped the 12th grade and went to Morehouse at the age of 15. He left there after 4 years, went to Crozer Theological Seminary, and then Boston University for his PhD. So he actually pledged at Boston University in 1951 and 1952. But to me, a main reason that has been beneficial to me over the years has been the networking and the brotherhood. For example, one example that comes to mind in the 1980s, working for Congressman Charlie Rangel, who's an Alpha Phi Alpha, and then going over to work for the late Congressman Bill Gray, who was Alpha Phi Alpha. And then, being a lobbyist up in New York for the late Mayor Dave Dinkins, who, point of note here. So Dave Dinkins was the pledged at Howard University, and on his line was I'm drawing a blank here, but the first Black governor of Virginia,
Wilder.
Doug Wilder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they were on the same pledge line.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. But I mean, for you, what does it mean to be, quote, that alpha man?
Leading by example. I think that we all keep Denise with everything that we do in our respective professions. Let's just keep all of us are thankful and to be involved with the Washington Informer. Every day as we work with the Washington Informer, helping get the word out, spreading news, informing our community about what's going on in our community in a informed way that the mainstream media will not cover, is a way of keeping Dr. King's legacy alive. So I think that There is Dr. King's ministry, which ended on April 4th, 1968, as a result of an assassin's bullet in Memphis, Tennessee. But we each at the Washington Informer have our own respective ministries, and putting out a newspaper every week, and WIN TV, and Our House newsletter is a way of keeping Dr. King's legacy and ministry alive.
Well,
Well,
thank
let me
you.
stress
Go ahead,
this
James.
about networking. He talked about networking. I came from Austin up here about 3 or 4 years ago. And I really didn't know very many. Well, of course, I'm kidding about that. But I didn't know a lot of
Listen, you
people.
got
But
a twin, James. But go ahead.
and I didn't know a lot of people, but I was an alpha, so I was able to. And Denise, this is important. You're able to connect instantly with people because you are a brother. You don't have to justify yourself. You don't have to put on a false impression. You can just be yourself because you're with your brothers. And so that helps you to grow here. That helps you to be prosperous here. And one thing I like about the DC area is that this is alpha land. I mean, Atlanta may be alpha land, but this is alpha land too.
Wow. Okay. And for you, also that question: what does it mean to be an alpha man? Well, no, I want James to answer that.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, basically, it means holding yourself to high standards. It means community service. As you know, we have a phrase: manly deeds, scholarship, and love for all mankind. And all three of those tenets are very important to the development of being an alpha man and showing your love for the community, which is why I write for work for the Washington Informer, and do the things that I do in the community because I'm community oriented, and I get a lot of support from the Brothers of Alpha in terms of that. That's very important. That's why.
Wonderful. Dave, you.
Quickly, for me, I'm never alone. I am never alone. I have this extended family of 100,000 like-minded individuals who are all empowered to change their community. It has empowered me to be a leader in my own business, and also it's connected me to the community in such a way that there's a debt to be paid in my mind. The same debt that Martin Luther King and others fought, and paid, if you will. We still have a lot of disparities in our community that we, as alpha men, are 100% empowered, financially, resourcefully, educated, all of the above, to participate in towards a positive solution. So it gives me a kind of swagger, if you will, to go out, and the ability to be able to do the work, right, that is required to help heal the community. So I love my A5A. I love the entire Divine Nine and the work that we're all doing, fraternity sororities. And I love my Black community. And so Alpha Phi Alpha just happens to be a leader in that community. And we're looking forward to another 100+ years of assisting and growing our community.
And before we close out, I'm sorry, Austin, I just want to ask
if I,
question.
go
ahead. No, you go ahead.
No, if I may, I want to throw in that I don't know if it was his first job, but certainly at the age of 13, Dr. King's was a assistant manager at a delivery station for the Atlanta Journal. So
wow. But what I was going to ask, though, in closing, because we talked about service, we talked about the community, and Dr. King, and Dr. King's message was a global message. And I'm curious, is Alpha Phi Alpha also a global fraternity?
Yes,
it is.
Who can anybody talk about that?
I know that we have chapters in Liberia, Nigeria, and Tanzania. If I've got, I mean, definitely Liberia, definitely Nigeria. That's a third one. Don't remember if it's Tanzania, but certainly yes, we are global. Whether we have any chapters in Europe or Asia, other parts of the world, I just don't know.
Well, I do.
Ahead,
we have chapters in Korea, in Seoul, Korea. We also set up one in Cape Town, South Africa. And so that represents the whole country there. And so we are international. And as a matter of fact, some leaders of some Caribbean nations, I can't name them right now, but are Alpha brothers.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you so very much. It's almost like you're celebrating a birthday or an anniversary or something, Martin Luther King's birthday. I'm sure it's a special tribute to you all. I don't know. I know a couple of you all may be out at the parade. Some may be going to, there's usually a wreath laying, I think, that happens at the monument here in Washington, D.C. I don't know if you happen to be going there or going to have breakfast with Reverend Al Sharpton. But whatever you do, it seems as though you all remember that this is a day on and not a day off. Amen. So thank you so very much for being with us. I'm still trying to figure out, when am I going to get my letters? But anyway, we'll talk about that later.
You get tapped on the shoulder.
Yeah.
Okay,
thanks, Denise, in 06.
Another one of those secret codes. All right, gentlemen, take care. And
Take care.
I will see you. Happy New Year and happy Martin Luther King Day.
Ditto. Thanks.
Thank you.
Alrighty. All right. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of another segment of Win TV. I'm so happy that you all were able to join us again. Remember, we're here every Friday from noon to 1. However, you can see us anytime on YouTube. So make sure you subscribe at Washington Informer TV, no spaces, Washington Informer TV. And I hope to see you on Monday at the MLK Holiday Peace Walk and Parade, the 19th anniversary Peace Walk and Parade. And remember, the Washington Informer turns 60 years old this year, and you'll hear more about that. So until then, have a wonderful weekend. Stay warm, stay dry. And Enid Doggett, thanks for checking in. We'll see you all next week.